Hey everybody, it's Brittany. It's a little windy here, so I'm gonna speak louder and hopefully you can hear me. So this weekend is planting weekend. It's the weekend when all chance of frost has passed, so plants can now go in the ground. This morning was pretty busy. I went over to my grandmother's retirement home where she has a small garden plot, and I brought some tomato plants as well as a zucchini and a snow pea plant so that she can have some nice vegetables in the summer. After going for lunch, we're here at a plant swap that is being hosted by a meetup group in Ottawa called the Ottawa Urban Gardeners. Basically, I brought extra plants that I had and I counted those plants, and then I got a number of tickets for each plant. Once everybody else gets here and we have the plants set out, then we'll all take turns being able to get as many plants as we have in tickets. So I have a whole bunch of vegetable plants. I brought some zucchini, some butternut squash, some peppers, a couple tomatoes, and I'm hoping to get some herbs. So it's Sunday evening, and I'm currently being eaten alive by insects to bring you this update. Yesterday afternoon I did some planting, and then this morning I did some more. But it was such a nice day today that I decided to go to the beach with a friend of mine. I thought I might be able to do a bit more planting this evening, but not only am I being eaten alive by bugs, but I think just because of the sun and the heat today, I'm exhausted. It's not a big deal if I finish my planting over this next week. As long as it's done by next weekend, I think it'll be fine. I'll show you the plants. As you can see, I have planted plants on both ends of my garden. And that's because I've recently been doing some research on companion plants, which are plants that help each other grow and help each other thrive when they're planted next to each other. But similarly, that also means that there are plants that shouldn't be planted near each other in order to thrive. So over on that end, there are my tomato plants, both cherry and large tomato plants. There is basil, a plant called bee balm, which is good for tomato plants. And then there's also some lavender. Over here, I have my zucchini plants, cucumber and red cabbage. I have chamomile, dill, and then in the far end, I have potatoes. You'll see I have an interesting contraption attached to this tree. This is called an animal chaser. In past years, I've had a lot of difficulty with deer coming in and feasting on my vegetable plants, so I'm trying this machine. It was $30, so definitely a decent price, and we have attached it to a block of wood, bungeed it to a tree like so. It's a device that's powered by 6 batteries, and when turned on, it has an infrared sensor that covers 22 feet at a 70-degree angle. Whenever it senses movement in that sensor zone, it will emit a loud sound that can only be heard by animals, can't be heard by humans, but it will basically chase the animal away. hence the name Animal Chaser. This is totally new for us, so I'm not sure how effective it will be. I'll be sure to let you guys know that in future videos. Hey guys, so my planting weekend actually turned into a planting week. Yesterday was a week after I started putting my plants in the ground, and I'm hoping to be able to finish by today. You might be able to hear the lawnmower going on in the background. In the week that's passed since I started planting, there were quite a few weeds. Yesterday my mom was nice enough to weed this garden for me while I was at the local farmers market. It was rainy yesterday afternoon and last night, so by the time I got up there were quite a few weeds that had popped up again, so I just went through with a fork and removed those. My chives and garlic chives are doing quite well. Definitely the rain interspersed with the hot sunny weather that we've gotten has been really good for my plant. And over here is my oregano. All three of those are perennials, so they come up every year regardless of what I do. This year I've been planting a few plants that I've never tried before, so it'll be interesting to see how they turn out. These two plants here are rhubarb, which I picked up at the plant swap. Rhubarb is a perennial as well. Provided neither of them die this summer, they will be back again next summer. Another crop that I'm trying this year that I haven't tried in previous years are potatoes. I planted a few in my front garden, and now I'm planting some in my back garden. You'll see them here in a trench. I got this bag of seed potatoes, which are essentially potatoes that have not been genetically modified to not sprout like the ones in the grocery store. After leaving them in a paper bag for a month or so, as you can see, they have sprouted. I cut the potatoes so that each piece had a sprout on it. So sometimes that meant just cutting in half and having two pieces with sprouts. Sometimes I could cut it into three. And then I dug a trench and put them in here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover them with dirt just so that the sprouts are covered but that there's still a trench. Then as the plant continues to grow, I will just keep covering the emerging parts of the plant with dirt until I will actually start forming a hill. The reason it's slightly darker along that line is because that's where I put the earthworm castings. I then spread the carrot seeds on top of that and tamped it down, meaning I basically took my hand and just lapped it down. With carrot seeds, you're not supposed to actually bury them in soil. You're supposed to simply tamp them down on the surface. After that, I planted a curry plant, which is another plant that has a very strong aroma, and so therefore is good for keeping pests and small animals away from my garden. The interesting thing about the curry plant is that it has nothing to do with the curry spice blend found in Indian dishes. This curry plant smells quite like the curry spice blend. For now, that completes my smaller garden. Now I have to decide whether I want to move on to the larger garden back here or just go back to working on the front garden. I am a little bit intimidated by the amount of weeds back here. They've gotten a little out of control. I'm especially nervous because I do have small seedlings that are in the garden. It's a little more difficult to pick out the weeds and distinguish the weeds from the seedlings, which can sometimes mean that I accidentally pull seedlings out, which is really frustrating. But I think I'm gonna try and take a hack at it and see at least if I can do a small portion of the garden before going back to the front garden. which is a lot more fun because there aren't that many weeds and I just get to plant stuff. Little cute guy's got his cheeks full. See if I can get a little bit closer. At least he's eating those seeds and not the seeds from my plants. So that's good. So I'm finally finished. I usually like to remove all the weeds that I can from the soil since I don't want them to just replant themselves. But when there are so many weeds like that, especially so many little ones, it can be really difficult to pick them all out. So I tried my best to pick them all out, but if it's really sunny and hot, then the exposed roots will be dried out and the weeds will be killed. So it really depends on what kind of weather we get over the next couple of days. I planted some winter savory. Winter savory is a companion plant that is supposed to inhibit the growth of weeds. So I'm hoping that by planting this here, it might help keep some of the weeds down. Additionally, I also planted some seeds for radicchio, lettuce, and Swiss chard. The planting extravaganza is finally finished. I do have 2 more things to go into the next weekend. A ground cherry plant that I'll be getting from the farmer's market next Saturday, and then some arugula. I'm planting the arugula next weekend because I'm staggering the planting of my greens so that I can actually have a steady supply of greens throughout the season rather than have them all mature at the same time. So this is what my front garden looks like now. I will be providing a link to the website where I get all my information about companion plants in the description so that you guys can peruse that at your leisure and figure out if you can use that companion planting in your garden to improve your yield or to keep pests and disease away. In order to keep this video from getting too long, I won't look at all my individual plants. I think what I'll do is I'll make a whole separate video devoted to telling you guys what each plant is and giving you some information about why I planted them in the locations that I did. Damn mosquito. So that's it for my planting video. I hope you found it interesting, and I'll check in with you guys later about the progress of my plants. Happy planting!